Welcome back to Burn the Ship, the podcast we connect entrepreneurs to professionals to help you go all in on your business. I'm your host, Ezra Brown. Without further ado, I'm going to allow my guest to introduce himself.
Thanks, Ezra. Hey, I'm Scott Mitchell. Been around the racket sports world for a little over 35 years. Played in college at Indiana, and got into the coaching world for many, many years, and moved into the management style, and then been involved in some companies. So love racket sports. So let's kind of get into all the fun stuff with being an entrepreneur in the racket sports world.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Scott, first and foremost, I would like to thank you for joining me and taking some time out of your day. As you guys can see, look at his beautiful background. This guy's dedicated his life to racket sports and helping the game grow, which is awesome, man. I appreciate what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
So, Scott, tell us a little bit about you. It's kind of the first question we always ask is tell me a story about you and kind of paint the picture of how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, you and I were talking a little bit before we came on, which is, I was born in Texas, grew up pretty much in Indiana. My dad was a doctor and was involved heavily in the Indiana University athletics. And so we grew up around the Bob Knights, the Lee Corsos, the Jerry Yeagleys, all the big time sports. And it was neat. But growing up around it, you had a passion for sports. Our entire family, everybody played, did something. My sister rode horses and was a world champion. My brother played college basketball and I played tennis. And so we grew up in it. Love it. It's so many life skills that came through that. And then being around coaches like that, you learn so much. And like you and I were talking about, the Bob Knights of the world, where off the court, away from everybody, completely, still a very intense person, but completely different person than you see. And we grew up with his kids and Lee Corso's kids, and we also kind of stay in touch. And through that, knew that because of my lack of height, I wasn't going to be a pro tennis player. But after going to college and competing a little bit, knew that I wanted to get into coaching. That led into some management. And then from there, getting involved in different organizations and growing racket sports like we mentioned. So it's been a fun journey so far.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And as you mentioned, you told me a little bit about the new racket sport that's coming up. If you want to, that you guys are kind of growing right now. If you want to, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Shed some light on it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing sport. It's called paddle. You hear a lot of times here in the U.S. called padel. But if you talk to the people that grew up with it, it started back in Mexico. They all call it paddle.
Okay.
So we do too. But it's a sport that's been around since the 60s. And it started from this gentleman in Mexico that wanted a tennis court in his backyard, didn't have a whole lot of room. So he built a smaller tennis court and ended up losing balls into the woods and so forth around his property. So he put a wall around it, and it grew into basically a tennis on a racquetball or squash court. So you can use the glass, you can use the walls. So if you look at the original ones, they're all concrete around them. Nowadays it's glass and mesh fence, so that more for the spectators side of it.
Right.
But it's the world's fastest growing sport. When we think about what's happening here in the U.S. with pickleball, this is what's happening everywhere else. And it's just now getting to the U.S. So I've been a part of adding that part of it to our consulting business. And now I'm part of a company called Whack It Racket as a partner, and where we go and can help with construction, design, installation of paddle courts if a facility is just looking to do that. Or the other side of our company is the management side, which is the area that I'm more heavily involved in, where we partner with country clubs or facilities that maybe have underutilized space, or in a couple cases where they're like, hey, we don't really know what's broken with our tennis program. Would you all come in and manage that side of us?
Right.
And so we have, and we're leasing the space and trying to bring paddle along. As it is amazing if you can get out there on one of these courts that are like behind me.
Yeah.
The easy thing is it's the scoring and the basic rules are like tennis, except you get to use the glass as well. So those tennis players, pickleball players have picked it up very, very quickly.
Man, that's awesome. Because I'll definitely, my mom's an avid tennis player. She plays probably 3 to 5 times a week.
Does she really?
She does. And then I'll get out on the paddleball court, or me and actually one of my roommates were playing tennis last week. So, and I'd never heard about paddle. So I'm glad I got getting out in front of it now. So next time I'm up in Nashville, actually, when I threw my phone down, one of the people calling me was in Nashville. So I might, next time I'm up there, I'll definitely give you a call so we can go out there and run it and see what it's like. See if I.
It's amazing. I mean, we've had it's pretty cool because we just saw the Paralympic U.S. hockey team just win the gold medal, just like our men and women did in the
Mhm.
Olympics. They actually are trained out of Nashville, so they come over, bring their sports chairs, get out on the court. We've had the Eagles players from the Super Bowl come out and play. All the soccer team from here come out and play. It's just one of those sports that you could play for hours and
Mhm.
never really play the same point twice.
Mhm.
Where pickleball and tennis are very repetitive in
Right.
the design of the points. This is you get out there for just a little bit and you're hooked.
Yeah.
So let me know. I'll get out
Absolutely.
there with
No,
you.
absolutely. I'll make that phone call. I'm up there a good bit, so I can make that phone call most definitely. But no, Scott, tell me a little bit about what kind of drew you. Obviously, you were a tennis player in college, so you had that. Did you go to school for business, or did you go to school for sports management? What kind of drove you to where you're like, all right, I'm going right into the racket sports world, and I'm gonna stay in it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was did sports management at Indiana, and used to do a lot of camps through college. So where we'd stay on campus and we'd help with the Indiana University camps, and
Hmm.
where we'd have a couple hundred kids come in, and I knew right away that I just enjoyed coaching,
Right.
being a part of it, seeing how you can develop kids, and then I got into the deep end of the whole thing, which was the research side of it, and why what kids can do at certain ages rather than the way we've taught racket sports. Racket tennis is one of those unique sports that we we've kind of done it on the same, like if you grew up playing tennis compared to like soccer or basketball, whatever, they always had scaled down equipment, right? The basketball goals were lower, the balls were smaller,
Hmm.
soccer fields were smaller. Everything was reduced based on the size of the child,
Right.
right, and the age. Tennis had never done that before, and so when I first got into it, you're always using a large court, yellow ball, an adult racket,
Right.
and it was really difficult for us to grow the sport because you're weeding out kids right away that just really couldn't pick up the sport. And it's one of the sports, it's probably to me the toughest sport to learn because of so much. It's everything's active,
Right.
your opponent's active, you're trying to hit a moving target or a moving ball with an object in your hand, where most of the sports there's at least one portion of it that's stationary.
Right.
So it's a difficult sport to pick up, and we never made it really easy for everybody. So doing the camps, I realized like how it kind of clicked for me that like I always it was easy for me to play.
Right.
But now I'm looking at kids and I'm trying to say like, why can't you do this? It's a pretty easy skill, but it actually
Absolutely.
wasn't.
Yeah.
So I got into the research side of it with the USTA and the PTR, um, and started understanding what kids actually should be able to do at certain ages and levels of their development. And
Hmm.
that really got me into understanding how the whole way of how we've been trying to develop players, adults and kids, just needed to change. And
Right.
we've done pretty well over the last 10, 15 years in the US of catching up with other countries. So now you see scaled down courts, you see the foam balls and the low compression balls,
Hmm.
smaller rackets, which is now intended to bring the masses in,
Hmm.
to where now we can get more kids playing because it's more fun.
Right.
But what you're starting to see now on top of all that is we're still on the adult side, still coaching. And so part of our company is a consulting side.
Hmm.
And so I work with clubs and coaches around the US where they're still coaching the same way we've been doing it for 150 years. And it's people just want to play. That's why pickleball is one of the reasons pickleball is really taken off is
Hmm.
people want to just play a sport.
Right.
I don't want to learn a forehand and a backhand and a serve. I want
Yep.
to learn how to play and
Absolutely.
then help me get those better.
Hmm.
But there's so many coaches and facilities that are still stuck in the old way that we do programming, that's one of the reasons they've turned to pickleball because they're like, well, our tennis program is broken,
Hmm.
but here's this new thing that we don't have to really do much with, and let's just run with that. So it's kind of full circle with the kids and then the adults. And then I started doing it for a long time, ended up going to Vandermeer's in Hilton Head, South Carolina, and started my career there in
Hmm.
90, right after I graduated. And it's kind of taken off. I realized then that I wanted to really kind of own or manage my own facility and really kind of develop programming along with, making some money and growing a community within a community.
Yeah.
So it's kind of blossomed from there. It's been pretty cool.
That's awesome. And then tell me a little bit about paddle for obviously you see pickleball and tennis more in our almost more in our upscale communities here because we're in Atlanta, so not as I say upscale, but more middle upper class around. It's not typically in your lower class places.
Yeah.
Is paddle something that's more affordable to the consumer than a pickleball or a rack or what's it called tennis?
It's not. And I lived in Atlanta for 10 years, and back then tennis was the only thing that we were doing. But
Right. What is
the
it? The
downside
APA or
with
something like that?
yeah, there's
Alta. That's what it is. Alta.
the others Alta, so that's the world's largest
Hmm.
local league, right? So that with USTA kept us busy, but the downside with so one of the reasons pickleball, there's nothing against pickleball. I enjoy playing it myself.
Hmm.
But one of the reasons pickleball took off really quickly is it was very social,
Hmm.
right? It's come and play, hang out. We've got courts blocked off for 2, 3, 4 hours. Just show up whatever you want, play as long as you want. We're not really worried about levels, and bring some food,
Right.
right? And so people would bring food, and it was literally just something that we did in tennis really, really well back in the 70s and 80s.
Hmm.
We kind of lost our way. So that's one of the reasons it took off. But the other thing was they didn't have to build their own facilities.
Right.
Like no country club was going out and spending 200, 300 grand, 400 grand to build a pickleball facility at that
Hmm.
time. They were just taking over the hard courts,
Right.
right? So it was very easy to just kind of jump on board and go. So that's what kept the cost of things really, really low for pickleball,
Hmm.
because you could do it at a public park and just take down lines and go, and you don't have to pay a darn thing,
Right.
right? So tennis and pickleball at that time were pretty. Tennis was higher end, but you could also go, and people forget, you could also go to the public parks and pay very, very little and get good programming in most cases,
Hmm.
especially there in Atlanta.
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
but paddle, unfortunately, from the cost side, with the glass walls, the construction, bolting in courts, not just painting courts,
Hmm.
astroturf and stuff. The cost right now is a little bit higher than what tennis or pickleball is.
Okay.
I imagine over time that'll come down. It's
Hmm.
probably what was happening back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s when we were building a lot of tennis courts. The
Right.
cost of doing so is probably pretty high, and eventually started coming down a little bit. So it's it can be anywhere from $10 or $15 for somebody to play up to 25 or $30 for an hour and a half, 90 minutes or so.
Hmm.
So not super cheap, but not horrible either.
Right.
There's some places where I've heard where you go to Miami or New York where you're spending hundreds of dollars just to play.
Hmm.
But most of the facilities that we are a part of, also, we have a membership side of it, which you can do, which is great because it's all inclusive. You just pay one monthly fee and play as much as you want,
Hmm.
but you can also pay as you go if you want to do that too. So I think over time the courts will come down, but it's just so new. And right now there's only one company that's come out here in the U.S. that are building courts. So
Uh-huh.
everything is getting shipped over. You're dealing with tariffs and everything else. So
Okay.
I think over
Okay.
the next 5 or 10 years you'll start to see some of that reduce a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's very aesthetically pleasing to the eye, like looking at the courts behind you.
Oh
Like
yeah,
it's cool. It's something because where I went to junior college, we would play racquetball. We'd get in there and just smash the
okay,
racquetball at each other. There was
yeah,
80 people on campus. We didn't have anything to do, so it was either go drive around
right,
in a field and hang out around a fire, or it was go play racquetball and go hang out at the gym. So we'd get in there and go in there and try to beam it at each other and see how hard you can hit it back and forth. So
yeah,
I thoroughly enjoy anything to do with being competitive. So I like that. But
right.
so tell me a little bit about the consulting side. Is that Premier Sport International? Is that your consulting business as well?
Yeah, so there's two. So I'm with
Okay.
Premier Sport as well international, and basically for I don't know what we're on 6 or 7 years now, maybe a little bit more,
Hmm.
where we get calls from, like I said, from country clubs, private clubs, resorts, public facilities that are like, hey, we've been doing this a while. Our programming is dying. We think our coach is great, but and everybody likes him, but we really need some help and guidance. And
Hmm.
we've done anything from working with their staff with staff development to program redesign to literally looking at their entire operations budgets and everything, and kind of giving them a little bit of a guidance with that. And that's where um, a lot of different places just they're not quite sure. You know, a lot of clubs look at tennis or racket sports as just an amenity that's going to lose their club money. And it doesn't need to be. It just needs to, we need to get out of the way, like I said, of the way we used to coach. But also it's surprising that a lot of clubs, their pricing model, they either it's way off, it's broken, or they just haven't adjusted with with the cost of doing business over the last 10, 15 years or whatever. So it's
Right.
all over the board.
Mm-hmm.
But we go in and work with them, but then also directors of tennis that are like, hey, I've been doing this for 20 years. I just need another idea of how to get people engaged or coach or different programming ideas. So we'll work with clubs themselves or just individual staff members. And then on the other side is Whack It Racket,
Mm-hmm.
which is similar, but it's all based around the paddle operations itself. So
Okay.
I've been managing racket clubs now for probably the last 20 years or so of my career,
Yep.
less on the court coaching and more managing. So the operations, pricing models, membership models, all of those kind of things is where we start to get some help. And what you're seeing with pickleball and paddle, unfortunately, already is I love the sport. I got a lot of money. I built this pickleball facility. I have no idea what I'm doing from an operations standpoint because I've never done this before. I just love pickleball.
Right.
So now we're going under, and then they call us and they say, like, can you help?
Yeah.
And so we're seeing that with paddle. We're seeing that with pickleball. We're seeing that a little bit with tennis as well.
Okay, that's awesome. That's actually super interesting. How much do you attest to you being able to kind of critique and give people the right advice back to you being a player and kind of being around it for so long, and being a coach? How much can you attest to being able to kind of go in and figure those things out quick as opposed to having somebody else come in, that's been around it but may not have that same kind of background?
It's interesting because I think over the years, one of the great things for me is that I've been a part of every avenue that's been in our industry, right? So I've coached and managed public facilities, private facilities, resorts, and the private club is where I learned the most.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've done a little bit of research on Disney and Disney. I love going to Disney. We all love the rides and all that kind of stuff. But it's more about what makes them so successful. So 70 to 80% of the people that go to Disney are repeat business for them. Where we think like, I don't know if you've been to Disney World or whatever, but you go to Disney World and it's like, man, that just cost me so much money to go. I mean, it was cool, but that was expensive.
Right.
But if it's so expensive, why do they still get 80% of the people returning?
Mm-hmm.
And it's because the value that you get out of what you just spent outweighs the price,
Right.
right? So you feel like, man, I just spent $200 on a ticket to go to Magic Kingdom for the day, but I got all of this. Like that
Right.
was really cool. And so with that, and with understanding private clubs and how what we call the emotional bank account
Mm-hmm.
is that instead of thinking, and this is what we try to talk to business owners right now, and I know a lot of people have investors or whatever, we're so focused on the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do with Whack It Racket that's really neat is we're focused on the overall experience that people are going to have, the pathway that people have, the experience they're going to have within the program, the experience that you're going to have when you come to social. Like socials is what we do
Right.
really, really well. It's what we know is the emotional tie that people have
Mm-hmm.
to your organization, that we focus so much on that because we know that if people are having a good experience, the price doesn't matter. So like when
Absolutely.
they do the surveys for Disney, the price, when people do the survey, the price isn't hardly ever mentioned
Right.
because like I said, the value, like, man, I was able to do this, the kids did that, they did. So when they sit there and say like, what didn't you enjoy? Or what would you change? Like the price, we would think in the top three, and it's not. It's way down the list.
Right.
And so that's where we focus in on is, look, if we can provide an experience for people that really ties them into, so socials, leagues, and tournaments are the thing that really ties somebody in. So I can go into a club and say the first thing I ask them is less about my playing ability or what I know from a playing standpoint, and I say, how are your leagues doing? How are your socials and events doing? And how are tournaments? If those are busy,
Mm-hmm.
then people are emotionally tied to the facility.
Right.
And then they probably will do very well. Now, there's probably elements of maybe the pathway is broken, like they do really well with advanced players, but getting the beginners into the pathway to get to that level, maybe there's some hiccups down the road.
Right.
But people are already engaged and want to be there. So when I go to and consult with the facility, those are some of the first questions I ask, and that's
Mm-hmm.
less about players getting better at tennis and more about how do they feel and how are they connected to you. And if that's not there, then that's the first thing we have to do. They have to feel like when they come, They want to stay, they want to hang out because they will tell other people about that experience
Right.
too.
Right.
So we are very experience focused.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I 100% agree with that because that's what I always tell people. Like I'm young,
Yep.
I'm gonna pay for experiences. Like I don't care if it's if it's
Yep.
a nice restaurant or traveling somewhere or going to do something. It's the experience that you're paying for, and it's kind of you
Absolutely.
want to have that ROI on the emotional bank account, like you said. You want to make sure that you
Yeah.
get something back for it. Yeah, I love that model. And Walt Disney, he is a there's a reason that guy's made so much money through his for the Disney for the
Wow,
family.
and it's crazy because like if in the research, like you, like I don't know, you've seen the trash cans that have the lids, the covers on the top of them. Like he
Yep,
invented that,
really.
right? He was the one that was like, look, I'm tired of seeing trash come out of the top of the can because that emotionally is a negative emotion to the people subconsciously. They're not even thinking about it.
100%.
So he put a cover over the top of that, and he also realized that look, every 26 to 28 steps after somebody buys something to eat, they're going to look to throw their wrapper down. So
Hmm.
you go to Disney and you literally can walk it off, and every trash can is exactly the same distance apart as if you would pick up a piece of trash and look for somewhere to throw it. Like that's the kind of detail that he was in. And yes, we love the rides and the movies, but that's the kind of stuff that really impacted me was like what makes somebody spend that kind of money and come back,
Hmm.
and it's all because the experience and all the little details that he thought about. And yes, the rides are cool, but if those other things, like they pick up leaves just as much as they pick up trash.
Hmm.
And the reason is because subconsciously, leaves to you is the trash.
Hmm.
So they have staff that go around and do that. That's the kind of detail that, like we talk about, it's the little things that make the biggest impacts on people.
Hmm.
Where we think, well, the ride's got to be great. Well, he's thinking, no, the trash has got to be picked up.
Right.
Those outweigh the ride. The
Right.
ride's going to take care of itself.
Right.
So it's neat. That's where our focus is within both of the businesses.
Man, that's awesome. That is awesome. So tell me a little bit about paddle too. What is paddle a is it a 2-on-2 or a 1v1? Or can it be
It's
both?
2-on-2 right now, but it's you're starting to see some courts built for 1v1.
Okay, 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 cool. That's what
I
I was.
like the doubles aspect though. I like to be out there with as a team.
Yeah, I like that too because then you get the camaraderie and the competitiveness
Yep.
going flowing. So you're screaming at each other, "Get off my side!" Yeah, no, for
Yep.
sure.
You get that for sure.
That is awesome. So tell me this, Scott. What have been some of the hard things for you? Obviously, being in the consulting space and being around the game for so long. What have been some of the hard things for you of when you go into a new club of kind of growing that business for them? What has been some of those, obviously, the walls that you have to knock down? Whether it, because it's every club's probably different.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that, and we've part of our Premier Sport International is managing professional tennis tournaments. So the Atlanta Open, been a part of that for many, many years, and now is gone, and Dallas Open, and many others.
Hmm.
And every place we go, it's got a new, a different DNA, which is the fun part, right? It's
Right.
trying to understand the community, trying to understand the people that are really trying to build whatever it is that's there, either the tournament or the facility. So going in with a little bit of an open mind and not saying like every place you go, it's never going to be the same.
Right.
So you can't be in a cookie cutter like, hey, this is what we do here and it will work for you, because it does. It just unfortunately it doesn't do that. So that's been a little bit eye opening, but um, everybody, just like right now, we just took over a tennis racket club in Florida,
Hmm.
and so we've got 6 courts. We're going to add some paddle courts, and it's been a little bit of a sleepy racket club for the last several years, and used to be very very busy. And everybody knows there's got to be change, and everybody hates change,
Right.
but they know it's going to happen, right? And I always tell people like you think about companies in the past that had the opportunity to make huge impacts. Like you look at like Blockbuster, for instance. Like Blockbuster knew DVDs were coming down the road. They knew that all of this change was happening in the industry,
Hmm.
and they chose to like, look, I'm going to stick to my guns, and we do cassette tapes, and that's all we're going to do.
Hmm.
And you saw what happened. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
they went out of business. Where you look at Amazon, and most people don't even know what Amazon used to be.
Right.
It used to be a book company.
Hmm.
That's all they did. And they realized like, hey, same type thing is people aren't going to stores anymore and just buying books. It's
Hmm.
going on tablets. It's going like all this other stuff.
Yep.
We should pivot as an organization too.
Hmm.
So you have this opportunity to say, look, we know things have to happen. We know that there's an opportunity here. We've got to be open enough to change, even though we may not enjoy it or we're a little nervous about it. But that's been the biggest piece. The biggest challenge is getting people to understand um, it, everything's gonna, you need to adapt. Everything's gonna keep moving along. You got to change a little bit, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And sometimes people just are like, look, this is the way we've always done it. We're gonna stick. This is what we know best. And those are the ones, unfortunately, that are reaching out to us now, saying, look, we've tried it our way. We really don't know what to do. Now you need to come help. And that's the the downside for us is like, it's time to rip off the band-aid now. We
Yeah.
should have been doing this 3 5 years ago, but now we're where we are. So
Right.
but that's a challenge. You get it because there's a lot of people that have great passion. They don't want things to change too much, but unfortunately these days, I worked at the Landings Club for many years, and it used to be marketed, and that's in Savannah, Georgia, and
Mm-hmm.
um, it used to be marketed as like a retirement community. But we
Right.
knew that, look, coming along, the moms are the ones that are making all the decisions. The kids are more involved. The dads are working too much. So, we need to cater things a little bit towards the family now and more towards where mom is really going to be engaged.
Right.
And that's still where we are within our industry,
Mm-hmm.
is getting more kids involved, making sure that moms are engaged with what's happening, and dad will come along too. And hopefully the clubs and coaches around the country will kind of jump on board, because we're seeing tennis suffer a little bit because we
Yeah.
haven't adapted.
Right, right, right. Because I do feel that way whenever I'm around the Alta League a good bit. Whenever I'll go
Yep.
watch mom play and her group, it's very hasn't changed since I was a kid. Like she's been doing it since I was probably 5 years old that I can remember. Probably earlier, to be honest with you. But the fives, whenever I
Yeah.
really start remembering going up there and watching everybody hang out with their cooler and their
Yeah.
their shots of spirits. But
The good old days.
exactly, exactly. But it does seem very just kind of dated a little bit, and that's kind of
Yep.
why I feel like pickleball is taking over around here. Because I feel like 3 years ago pickleball wasn't even we had to drive to like Alpharetta or somewhere where we're at to go play pickleball, and now it's all spread all the way to Douglasville, Villa Rica area, um,
Yeah.
and that
It's everywhere, but that's the thing that they've done really well. Like I said, that tennis used to do well is it's very social. And I don't know there in Atlanta, because we haven't. I think we left in 2006.
mhm,
But back then we used to all hang out. Like you said, you bring your coolers and you hang out. But what we're seeing at clubs now, and maybe you're seeing it there, is people come and play their match and then they leave. They don't even hang out anymore.
right,
And some of it's because just the mentality.
right,
Some of it's because they don't have the time anymore. But some of it's also because we haven't built in the space at the clubs that invite people to kind of hang out, like couches and chairs and lounge areas, and
right.
hey, come and chill type feeling. So that's another area that we work with when we consult with clubs, is your facility designed to embrace people to hang out, or
Yeah,
is it just like picnic
and
tables and they just like, look, I'm just going to go home?
that actually brings up a really good point. Do you guys kind of fight with HOA people ever? When you go into these communities, y'all ever have kind of battle with the HOA people? They're like, I don't want all this riffraff, kind of going on at the club here, versus just kind of letting it free flow. Like here, we're gonna make this community some money and bring people here to also probably bring people to your neighborhood to move in.
Yeah, yeah. HOAs are tough for sure. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just like anything. I mean, you get people that really have a desire to help, and that's what boards and HOAs and all that, tennis committees or whatever.
Hmm.
But when it ends up going south is when you get too many people that have their own agenda,
Hmm.
right? And I really want kids programs, or I really want my men's night, and I don't really care what else we do, but I want to be playing on Monday and Wednesday or whatever it would be. And so a lot of it, unfortunately, is having those conversations with that group to say, look, is some of the issue because we've got people on the board or the committees or those that are trying to make decisions, that really have their own personal agenda, and that's
Right.
not benefiting anybody.
Right.
So it may be unfortunate that you have to go through a different vote and get new people on the committees. But yeah, you're seeing that everywhere between pickleball and tennis right now for sure. And a lot of it is just because pickleball, like I said, they took over the tennis courts. Now they feel like they're there. There's not a whole lot of collaboration between the two sports. Unfortunately, I wish that would change.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a pretty volatile
Yeah.
dynamic in some places.
Most definitely. Most definitely. And tell me this: with your consulting business, you guys are kind of nationwide, or you guys kind of try to stay around the southeast?
No, we're nationwide. We've worked with clubs out in California, several in California, Idaho, all over.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
and even into Canada. So we've done some work there. I used to have a tennis academy in Egypt. and then we had one in India for a little while. So we've done a little bit everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But we're and like I was on a call earlier this morning with somebody that's over in the UAE.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. He's
That's
like, I'm struggling with programming. Can you help me? So we'll jump on a call from time to time. So
that's super cool. That's actually super super cool. Well, Scott, I appreciate you sharing all that. So tell me this: I got two questions left for you. We ask these to every guest. So tell me
okay.
this: what do you want to do with your time? Say you got every paddle court that you could possibly imagine running great, all your tennis communities and your pickleball communities running well. What do you want to do with your time? Whether that be go enjoy it with the family, go retire at Disney World in the Magic Kingdom. Just kind of what is it that you want to do with your time?
I think at the end of the day, I mean, I love helping, right? I mean, I've done a lot of stuff over my career where probably not the right thing to do or made mistakes or whatever, and now just trying to give back in a sense to those that don't have to go through. I've made the mistakes for you, so reach out to me. I'll help. I'll offer you. Like, I think that that sounds like a good idea, but here's where it'll lead to. So I still enjoy that. But I think I do all of this just to be able to provide for the family. I love hanging out with the kids. I've got a 17-year-old and then boy girl twins that are 14, and they're all playing tennis, enjoying spending time with them, traveling to tournaments with them. And then my wife played at Florida State, so she's a big time tennis player as well. So
Old criminal.
yeah, I think at the end of the day, we all enjoy doing these kind of things to really spend more time with family.
No, man, that's awesome. You got the right values and the right why. That's awesome. Because I've heard all the way from I want to drive a motorcycle up and down the coast, or I want to start my own band, or whatever these people want to do. But I appreciate you sharing that with us. And then the last thing I have is, the podcast name is Burn the Ship. It's going all in on your business or make it there, or you're going to die trying, and sounds like you've done that with dedicating your life to the game of, to racket sports. So what's it really been like to you? What's it mean to you to continue to be a part of it and help grow the game, but also help all these clubs, stay and also advance what they do?
Yeah, I mean, to me, this has been my life growing up, right? I played sports all throughout, but tennis was one of those things that really latched on to me at an early age. And I've been on USTA committees and been on national committees and seen the good, the great stuff that we're doing in the U.S., but also some other things that a little bit of a head scratcher. So I enjoy doing that. I want to continue to offer insight wherever I can to these clubs because I think there's so much more. I think a lot of times, for whatever reason, we're focused too much on the wrong things. And like I said earlier, ours is more around the experience because I know that if we get everybody, every club, every coach to understand that, look, at the end of the day, if Sally's forehand and backhand are better, that's great. But she's going to really remember how she was treated, how she felt when she was at the club.
Right.
And if that's our focus, we can really make an impact with a lot of people and adults and kids. And this is racket sports are such a big, not from the adult side, people that play 3 times a week with tennis extend their life up to 10 years more, which is great. I mean, we
Right.
don't share the health benefits of our sport,
Right.
where for the kids, the life skills are absolutely amazing from problem solving to all, and teamwork. And there's
Hmm.
just so many different life skills that I think if we all get on the same page a little bit more with racket sports and stop competing against each other, but also realize that our clients, their time is valuable. It's different than it was 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Hmm.
And if we can adapt, we can really start to make impacts in these communities, kind of like it was when you and I grew up.
Absolutely, man. That's awesome, Scott. I appreciate you sharing that, and I appreciate you joining us today. Tell the people where to find you.
You can always email me. It's always easiest to email us either at Scott at Premier Sport International or Scott at wacketracket.com. Or the websites at wacketracket.com or premiersportinternational.com. Both of those, you can check the websites out. Love to kind of connect if there's anything I can do to help.
Absolutely. We'll have Whack It Racket and Premier Sport International linked down below so you guys can go check out Scott and see what he's done and his life mission that he's put together for you guys to help grow the game. Scott, I appreciate you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. Once again, burn the ship.